Hello, everybody. How's it going this evening? Hope everybody's doing well. Happy New Year. Wired. You guys had a great holiday. I hope everybody had a great New Year's. Oh, it is 2024. I hope you guys have all your New Year's resolutions in order. Hope you stick by them. Never was one for New Year's resolutions. I never did that whole New Year's resolution thing. But hope you guys have all of yours decided and in order, and you hope you're following all those. I know some people do the diet thing, the exercise thing, the fish more thing, hey, fish more. That's a good New Year's resolution. Go crappie fishing more often, right? Let's see. Who all's on already? Ronald Dills, Happy New Year, Matt, to you and your family. Hope a very prosperous new year. Come to North Carolina and fish Jordan Lake with me sometime. Absolutely. I'd love to come over and fish Jordan Lake. I've heard a lot of good things about Jordan Lake. Jordan Lake supposedly has got some good crappie in it, right? I mean, you guys have some big crappie on Jordan, I've heard. Mostly white crappie, is that correct? Jimmy Pratt, what's going on, Jimmy? Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hello, hello. Robert, hey, Matt, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year from Wisconsin. What's going on from Wisconsin? Robert, Kenny, Happy New Year from Maryville, Tennessee. What's going on, Kenny? Arrigo Outdoor Adventures, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Crappie Kev, what's going on? David Baker, Happy New Year's. Danny Phillips, hey, buddy. To you as well. Virgil McMurray, hello, hello. Happy New Year. Shedrick, what's going on? James Williams, hello, hello. Happy New Year from Saudi Daisy. Anthony Kent, Happy New Year. Paul Gwynn, the Mr. Paul Gwynn. What's going on, Paul? Jackie Jordan in the house. What's going on, Jackie? Happy New Year. Eric, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Corryton, Tennessee. What's going on? Some old stomping grounds up there in Corryton. Let's see. Terry Wade, Happy New Year. Ontario, Canada. Man, we're in Canada tonight. What's going on, Terry? Hope you're doing well up there, buddy. Is it cold up there, Terry? Because I know it's colder than crap down here tonight. I think it's supposed to get down to 20s tonight, so it's cold down here. I bet you it's colder than crap up there. If it's that cold down here, I'd say it's really, really cold up there. What's the temp up there right now, Terry? Donathan Brown, what's going on from Lenore City? Ronnie Harris, what's going on? Happy New Year. Jeff, hello, hello. All right, so we're going to talk a couple different things tonight. First off, we're going to talk about the trolling. Okay, I absolutely love to troll. It's one of my favorite ways to catch crappie. Live scope is fun. I love live scoping. There's nothing wrong with live scoping. I love it. But back at the roots of crappie fishing, okay, back at everybody's roots, not just mine, but everybody's roots in crappie fishing, is trolling, right? So crappie fishing at its core, at the earliest stages of crappie fishing, was, most everybody fished for crappie in the spring. Most everybody that fished for crappie rather trolled or threw a float in a minute in brush tops in the spring, that sort of thing. I mean, crappie fishing was simplistic, okay? And you still today see a lot of guys in the spring out there trolling, and a lot of guys early spring. I'm talking February, March, when it's still cold mornings, but, February is kind of when it starts, guys. I mean, that first February morning that, you just kind of feel like that warmth coming back to the air as far as East Tennessee is concerned anyway. You get some of those mornings in February where you kind of feel that warm air coming back in, and you're just like, it's been cold for so long, and now we're getting a little bit here and there. No, then you get the cold again. But February is really when that trolling season starts for me. I love to longline troll in February, and then I start out longlining in early February, mid-February, and then I'll move to pulling planer boards in late February, early March, all the way through April, May. First part of May is kind of when it stops for me. Middle to the first part of May is kind of when I stop trolling, right? When I kind of stop that trolling bite kind of dies down. That spring bite, shallow bite kind of slows down. You still get some of those suspended fish. You still get those fish that are moving in and out for spawn. But what you're trying to identify or fish with that trolling pattern is when you're longline trolling, you're trying to locate those fish that are in transition. That early trolling bite, February-ish, you're looking for those fish that are, and I mean, even in January, you're looking for those fish that are suspended. Now, I will say it's a little bit more difficult in January to get on a good trolling bite because the fish are still very cold. They're lethargic. They're not really wanting to chase a jig. So that trolling bite can be good in January, but it can also be a little cantankerous at times. Just depends on kind of the mood of the fish and where they're located in the creeks. But we have had some really good days. Okay, I've had some really good days. Actually, one of my best trolling days on Chickamauga was January 1st. With my old fishing partner, Don, we went and absolutely slayed big crappie. I'm talking big. I mean, we were out there like an hour, and he's like, hey, we need to count how many fish we have in the live well because we've been throwing them in there two at a time, and I'm not real sure we're not over our limit. We counted our fish in the live well. We had 29, which you can only keep 30 for two people. So we're like, woo, good thing we counted them. Caught one more, and we were done. So we've had some good days, but those are few and far between. January. February is really when it warms up. And like I said, you're looking for those fish that are in transition. So early to mid-February, you'll find those suspended fish that are kind of moving towards that spawning pattern. They're kind of moving in that direction. They're not necessarily full spawn mode moving up, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. But those fish are going to start moving towards that pattern. That's kind of their next stage. Their next step is to start that transition. Now, some of our lakes here in East Tennessee, and especially you guys down south, you're going to get a wave of fish that are going to start thinking about spawning in February because there's specific lakes here in East Tennessee and specific areas of that lake that warm up faster because of silt content in the water, because of their orientation on the lake. You know, those northern bays that get a lot of sun, okay? They're getting sun all day long. Those areas of the lake that aren't protected, that don't have a whole lot of hills or woods on either side of the lake, you're going to get a lot of sun in those bays. They're shallower bays. They're going to warm up a little quicker, and you'll actually get kind of a wave of fish that'll think about spawning in February. Believe that or not, I have caught what I'll call pre-spawning fish on shallow structure in some of those bays early as February, middle of February. So especially that full moon in February. The full moon in February, you can catch a wave of fish that kind of move towards that spawning pattern. Now, again, trolling is a fantastic way to catch those fish that are in kind of that transition and out there suspended in open water. We're going to get into kind of my trolling setup and how I troll, what I use to troll, some of the baits that I like to use, the rods I prefer to use. We're going to talk a little bit about, I finally got a set of my own planer boards made for myself. Okay, I've been making so many for you guys that I hadn't had a chance to put my own planer boards in my own boat. So I got a set of those made for myself. We're going to kind of talk about planer boards a little bit tonight. Those are if you hadn't seen those are the wired for crappie planer boards. You got starboard and port. Passenger side is port. That's how I always remember. Passenger side, P for passenger, port. So your port side is your passenger side of the boat, and then your starboard side for the driver's side of the boat, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about the planer boards tonight. If you are interested in purchasing some planer boards before this spring, wiredforcrappie.com, the shop tab, they're on there. If you guys are looking for a good set of planer boards to use this spring, they're great, great, great tools. We'll talk about those a little bit later, though. And we're just going to kind of go through setup and kind of some of the baits that I like I said. So, but I'm ready. I'm super excited. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We're actually, I love guide trips, trolling. because you can just catch so many fish. It's so productive. You don't have to have live scope. You don't have to teach live scope. You can just go out, have fun, and catch fish. You don't have to stare at a screen all day. You don't even have to sit in one spot all day. You can walk around the boat. You can joke. You can cut up. I take my 8-year-old trolling. We play cards. He plays on his phone. I sit there and look at stuff online. You can just sit there and watch the rods and have fun and just enjoy your time on the lake catching fish. It's just a blast. It's just a great way to get kids fishing, to get maybe inexperienced anglers out on the water catching fish. And it's just a way to kind of relax and get back to the roots of crappie fishing. That's what I love about it so much. Is it at its core, it's simplistic, and that's the way that we used to do it for years and years before all those electronics came out. Okay, so I get asked the question all the time: did you catch fish before live scope? Heck yeah, I caught fish before live scope. Man, I caught just as many fish before live scope as I do with live scope, to be honest with you. And it's kind of one of those things where live scope has, where you could go catch 60 fish in 4 hours. Now you can catch 60 in 2 hours because you can see them and it's a little bit easier. But, same amount of fish, maybe less time. But, if you could catch fish before, or if you can catch fish with live scope, you can go catch fish without live scope, and vice versa. If you can catch them without it, you can catch them with it. So, a lot of fun, a lot of good times, and a lot of good videos coming for you guys as we troll this season. And probably going to hit some different lakes. Probably going to go to, you'll probably see me on Chick doing some trolling. Probably see us on Telco doing some trolling. Probably on Loudon doing some trolling. And probably even going to hit Dale Holla a time or two and do a little trolling. I'm really, really anxious to get down to Dale Holla and do a planer board show. Pull some planer boards on Dale Holla and see if we can't catch some of those big spawning fish on Dale Holla too. So a lot of black crappie down there. Love, love, love catching black crappie, especially on planer boards because they're so wide. They're like a football. Whereas, white crappie are kind of longer and not as broad across the back, where black crappie are kind of shorter and broader across the back, so they look like a little football. And man, black crappie pulls so hard. I love catching black crappie. It's so much fun. So I can't wait to get down and do that. Let's see, where were we at? See what you guys are saying. Terry Wade, unseasonably warm, 2 Celsius, I believe. Oh, that's not too bad. Normally have 3 feet of snow. We have an inch. Okay, so not a whole lot of snow in Canada. Man, I honestly hope, Terry, I honestly hope we get some snow down here this year. I was just talking to one of my buddies earlier about if we get some snow, taking the kids and pulling them around on a tube behind the 4-wheeler in the snow. Would absolutely love to be able to do it, but we'll see. It's got to snow first. I hope we get some. We generally are good for a snow or two here in East Tennessee, so hopefully we'll at least get some. Johnny, Matt, hope you had a happy holidays. Does Bonehead Tackle have smaller braid than 12 pound? Where do they sell Bonehead products around here? All right, so in Maryville, Bonehead Tackle is sold at Crappie Cove in Maryville, Tennessee, where are my banners at? Bam! Discount codes right down there. 10% off your fishing specialties products, guys. Wired is a discount code there. Fishing specialties. Stowaway mounts, 10% off with code Wired. And then 15% off the Bonehead Tackle code of Crappie 2023, which I need to get with them and make sure that has been updated. It should be Crappie 2024 this year, but I don't know that they've updated it or not. So if you use Crappie 2023 after this live and for some reason it does not work, try Crappie 2024 and I will have to get with Bonehead and make sure they update that code. But there's your codes right there. Save you guys some monies. And let's see, back to our question. Around here, you got Crappie Cove in Maryville, Tennessee. You've got Sloan Center in Vonore, Tennessee has a absolutely full selection of Bonehead tackle baits. Great selection of Bonehead tackle baits at Sloan Center and at Crappie Cove. So either one, if you're in Maryville, Crappie Cove, anywhere near Vonore, Tennessee, I would hit Sloan Center. Nathan Wood, what's going on, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Johnny, hey, what's going on from Oak Ridge? Rex, good evening from Arkansas. What's going on, Rex? Matt, where do they sell bonehead tackle around here? Oliver Springs. Want to try their braid? Like I said, that's where you can get hooked up with some bonehead tackle if you're looking for it. Happy New Year's from Harrison, Arkansas. What's going on? Eric, are you going to have any of those boards available at the Expo? Yes, I can have some at the Expo. So I will be at the Expo this year, guys. I will be there to some capacity over the weekend. Okay. I will definitely be there Saturday morning, and then I will probably be there Sunday as well. So I will not be there Saturday evening, though, unfortunately. I have a guide trip that Saturday, unless I can talk him into moving it to Sunday evening, which I may try to do. I may try to talk him into moving that to Sunday evening, and then I may be there all day Saturday and Sunday morning. But we'll see what happens. I don't really know, but I will be there to some capacity. And yes, I'll probably have some planer boards available at the show the end of this month. That is the last weekend of January. The East Tennessee Fishing Show is at the Expo Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. Bonehead Tackle will be there, and I will be in the Bonehead Tackle booth with Tommy Ezel and Mr. Jensen from Bonehead Tackle. I will be in the booth with them definitely Saturday morning and Sunday morning, but Saturday evening is still up in the air, okay? So, look, we're going to be doing a couple things at the Expo while we're talking about it, Eric. I'm going to be giving away some discount cards if you are subscribed to Wired for Crappie on YouTube, okay? So they'll be, and it's going to be kind of a random deal. You may get blindsided by me, and I may say, hey, are you subscribed to Wired for Crappie on YouTube? If you say yes and can show me on your phone that you're subscribed to Wired for Crappie, there will be discount cards given away to Bonehead Tackle, free product given away from Bonehead Tackle, and we will also be giving away a guide trip with me on the water, compliments of Bonehead Tackle at the show as well. So if you purchase an item from Bonehead Tackle at the show, you will be able to, or eligible to, win a free guide trip with me on a lake here in East Tennessee of your choosing, okay? So date of your choosing, excuse me. Not necessarily the lake of your choosing, but date of your choosing to go on a guide trip with me and go catch some fish. So there's a lot of cool things going on at the Expo, a lot of cool things going on in the Bonehead Tackle booth. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a good time. We're going to cut up. We're going to talk some crappie fishing. We're going to put out some new baits for you guys because there's going to be some new baits at the show that you guys didn't get a chance to see last year, and some new colors they're coming out with. We're going to be talking about some new colors, showcasing some new stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, okay? So if you're in the Knoxville area, the last weekend of January, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the show, but I will be there Saturday morning and Sunday morning for sure, okay? So come check it out. Come see us. Happy New Year, Kelly. Happy New Year to you. Jim Davis, Happy New Year. What's going on, Jim? Why is my phone not working? There we go. Ashley, what's up, Matt? Good evening, Wired fam. What's going on, Ashley? Hope you had a good holiday, buddy. Glad to see you. All right, so did I get through all my comments? I think I did. Okay. All right, so let's talk about rods. All right, rods that I use for trolling. All right, so Barry Wallace, Happy New Year to you, sir. Rods for trolling. All right, so I prefer an ACC crappie stick, obviously, right? I prefer ACC. Why do I prefer ACC? Well, it's pretty simple. They're a great rod. They're dependable. They're durable. They got great action. They got great feel. Look, crappie rods, crappie fishing, again, is simplistic, okay? Crappie fishing is not, don't overcomplicate your crappie fishing. Find something that you like and just stick with it. Find you there's a lot of good rods out there. Let's see. You guys are all messed up. There we go. A lot of good rods out there. A lot of good products out there, okay? These are the products that I prefer, all right? I'm not saying they're the best out there. They may be. They may not be. I hadn't used it all. I'm just telling you I like an ACC, one, because they got great sensitivity. They're durable. And quite honestly, I can have one set of rods that does everything. So I have one set of trolling rods, okay? One set of casting rods and one set of dock shooting rods. And that's it. I need a few 6.5 footers to cast brush with. I need a few 6 footers to shoot docks with. And then I need my one trolling setup. I can long line troll. I can pull planer boards. I can pull crankbaits. I can pretty much do anything I need to do. I can vertical jig. I can do whatever with one set of trolling rods, okay? Now, my trolling setup, I have two 12-footers. My two 12-footers stick directly out the side of the boat, straight out the side of the boat. Then I have two 10-footers that go at about a 45-degree angle from the 12s. So the 12s are straight out the side, and then I have the 10s. Then I have two 8s, so two 8-footers, and then straight out the back of the boat, I do two 6-footers, okay? Two 6-foot rods. So I'm running 8 rods when I'm trolling, all right? When I'm long lining, I run 8 rods. When I'm pulling planer boards, I run 8 rods. When I'm pulling crankbaits, I run 8 rods. I run the same 8 rods. There is no rod limit in Tennessee, for those that are going to ask. Some of you guys have a rod limit on your lakes or in your state. If you do, I'm sorry. You can only run so many. But in Tennessee, we don't have a rod limit. So I run 8 because that's what's manageable, right? I can run those out of the back of the boat. No big deal. 4 off each side. Not get tangled. Not have to worry too much with it. As long as I don't make really sharp turns when I'm long line trolling. When you're long line trolling, you cannot turn that boat around on a dime. Those of you that have long line trolled know you have to make a big wide turn so you don't get tangled up. But I run two 12s, two 10s, two 8s, two 6s. And it works beautifully. It's simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of doing to do it. Now, again, I don't have to have, with 8 rods, I don't have to have, to be able to long line, pull planer boards, and pull crankbaits. I don't have to have $4,977 in rods. I have one set of rods, cost you roughly, for all 8 ACCs, you're looking at, what, less than $800, to have a full setup of rods and not have to change rods to change tactics, okay, to change techniques. So I typically run 4 or 6 pound test. I prefer 4, okay, but I will go to 6 if I'm pulling crankbaits sometimes, because you're pulling a lot of weight, or I'm pulling a lot of weight when I pull crankbaits. I'm pulling, anywhere from 2 ounces to 3 ounces of weight. But to long line troll and to pull planer boards, okay, I like a 4 pound test. Now, some of you guys are going to say, really, you pull that big old planer board with 4 pound test? Yeah, I do. And it works beautifully. I don't have any issues with it. It doesn't break off. Look, when you pull in these planer boards, these are a fixed board, okay? So I will say that. These are a fixed board. There's no snap clip on them. They don't come off. These are for shallow water. Now, can you use these in deep water? 110,000% you can use these in deep water. I've fished 30 feet deep with these planer boards. No problem, okay? And when you use these boards in deep water, yes, you have to unclip them. But it's not hard. It's just a bobber clip, okay? Just a simple bobber clip. The bobber clip is all you have to unclip. You reach up, you unclip it, you pull it, you throw it in the bottom of the boat, you reel your line in the rest of the way. It's not a big deal. It's very simple, okay? So again, one set of rods, 4 pound test line. I like mono. I do not troll with anything but mono. Why do you troll with mono? Well, that's what I've always started with, and it's the cheapest. And you are going to break off a lot when you're trolling, okay? Now, when I'm trolling and I get hung, let's say I get hung in a brush pile, okay? I don't want to use braid, because if I use braid, I'll literally drag that brush pile along with the boat if I'm not careful. You know what I'm saying? If it's not a if it's not a big brush pile, I may sit there and hold that rod and hold that rod and hold that rod. It might not break. I mean, it could straighten the hook probably before it broke the braid, but I want to be able to break that jig off. Okay. I don't want to sit there and yank on brush piles. I want to be able to break that jig off with minimal effort, because I don't want the rest of my rods getting tangled either. If that outside rod or one of my middle rods gets hung, I don't want to sit there and hold it and hold it and hold it and it come all the way to the middle of the boat and tangle up the rest of my rods in the process. So I want to be able to break it off. Okay. So that's again why I use mono. It's a little easier to break off that 4, maybe 6 pound test. But for me, I like a 4 pound because I feel like I've got my depths down. So when I'm using 2/16 pulling, always a double jig setup when I'm long line trolling or pulling planer boards. If I'm pulling planer boards, I've got 2 jigs tied on always. Rather 2 30-seconds, 2/16, a 16th and an 8th, 2 8ths. I may mix it up a little bit and do a 32nd and a 16th, but I've always got 2 jigs tied on. Okay, always. Both tied with a loop knot, about 12 to 18 inches apart. Okay, but yeah, 4 pound test mono, always 2 jigs, pretty simple. And plus, you're making casts out behind the boat 30, 40 feet behind the boat, 50 feet behind the boat, maybe, and you're breaking off. I don't want to break off a bunch of expensive braid. Braid's expensive, I'm here to tell you. When you're trolling, it don't matter what line you use. It don't matter if it's clear, blue, yellow, orange, green, purple, camo. It don't matter what it is, rainbow. It don't matter. When you're crappie fishing and you're trolling, you can use whatever the heck you want to use, okay? It ain't going to make a bit of difference, all right? Now, braid. Braid might make a little difference because braided line floats, okay? So your jigs may actually ride up in the water column a little bit with braided line, because braided line floats, doesn't sink. Mono, fluoro, they sink. So you will get a little bit of a depth difference. Again, that's why I like mono, because I figured out my depths. I know with 2 16th-ounce jigs, pulling at about 0.8 mile an hour, I'm somewhere in that 8 to 12 foot range with 2 16th-ounce jigs and a good solid cast behind the boat. So I can look at these graphs right back here. I can look at these graphs and I can look in a creek and I can see that my fish are set up anywhere between 7 and 12 feet, 8 and 12 feet that day. And I can put 2 16th-ounce jigs on, throw them out behind the boat. I can roll with it. I can catch fish. Now, you got to remember throughout the day, those fish may move. Okay. If you start long line trolling and you're pulling in a creek and you're catching fish, and all of a sudden you're catching them. The rods are going down left and right. And you're just wearing fish out. You're just having a blast. And then an hour later, nothing. You're pulling in that area, you ain't catching a fish. You got to change. You got to do something different. Okay. You got to put a little heavier jig on one. Reel one in, put a little lighter jig on it. You got to move your jigs around. Try to find out. Those fish will change throughout the day as far as their depth, their areas. Okay, you may be pulling right down the middle of the creek channel and you're catching fish, and all of a sudden you don't catch no fish no more. Let's say you're fishing in the afternoon. You're pulling that creek channel when you first get there, you're catching fish, and then it stops, and you make 2 passes, don't catch a fish. Most people say, oh, those fish won't bite anymore. That's not true. Those fish will still bite. They moved. They rather went up in the water column, down in the water column, or they moved out of that creek channel onto a flat to feed for the evening. Okay, so you got to move, try to find those fish, keep on those fish, stay with those fish. It's not necessarily always they quit biting. Everybody says, my uncle used to say something all the time. He used to tell me, oh, you may as well go home after 9 o'clock because crappie don't bite after 9 o'clock. And I'm like, are you serious? What made you think that? He was a big troller, loved to long line troll. After 9 o'clock, you may as well leave. They quit biting. I said, yeah, I don't think that. He would always fish with 1 16th-ounce fly tipped with a minnow thrown behind the boat. He would go catch fish until 9 o'clock, and then he wouldn't catch fish no more. And he'd always swear, you may as well go home after 9 o'clock, Matt, because crappie don't bite after 9 o'clock. First thing in the morning till 9 o'clock, that's when they bite. So I took him out one day. We're fishing out of my boat. He says, oh, 9 o'clock, fish aren't going to bite anymore. I said, why not? He said, they just won't bite anymore. I said, watch this. So we pulled the jigs in, took his 16th-ounce jig off, or his fly off, tied a couple 16th ounce curly tails on there and threw it back out. Started catching fish. Well, you can catch them after 9 o'clock. I said, yeah, it's because after 9 o'clock, they drop in the water column because the sun gets up. When the sun gets up, the light penetrates the water more. And guess what? They move down because they're ambushed. They're predators. They're predator fish. They want to be able to ambush out of deeper, darker water. They're going to ambush those bait fish as they come across the top of them. That's how they work. That's what fish do. I mean, they eat just like any other fish. It's what crappie do. So those fish would just move down the water column. Well, he never would change. If he couldn't go out there and throw his 16th ounce fly behind the boat with a min attached to it and catch a fish, he was going home because they weren't biting anymore. So keep in mind that they're going to change throughout the day. They always will. Okay. You're not going to go out there and catch fish for 10 hours straight, never change. Now you might, don't get me wrong. You may go out there one day and do it, but it's not consistent. You're not going to consistently go out there, catch fish at the same exact depth trolling all day long from daylight to dark. Those fish are going to move throughout the day. They always do. Okay. Now, they may not move more than 30 feet, but they're going to move. You know, if you're going right here, 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 back and forth, and you're catching fish, and then all of a sudden they quit, move over 50 yards, move over 100 yards. Try to find where those fish went. They went somewhere. They rather went left, right, or up, down. They didn't disappear. Fish don't just disappear. They're still there. Okay. Shallow trolling, planer boards. Okay. Now, long line trolling first in February. Let's talk February real quick before we go to planer boards. All right. So long line trolling. Let's say February. You want to go long line troll. Right now, you want long line troll. Stay in the creek channels. Stay in those creeks. You're going to want to locate those fish in the creek channel. That's where they're going to be at. Now, they may be suspended, but those creek channels are your high percentage areas are those creek channels. I'm going to stop tomorrow and take a picture of a creek channel that's above the water, okay, that is going to be kind of an eye-opener. I saw it the other day when I was driving down the road, and I thought, man, I need to take a picture of that and post it for my followers, because it's a great example of why I tell you guys all the time, creek channels, creek channels, creek channels. Because back years ago in East Tennessee, they cleared a lot of land to impound our reservoirs, our lakes in East Tennessee. Our lakes are basically the Tennessee River or French Broad or whatever river, Clinch River, whatever river flows into that specific lake. They dammed those rivers to create what is our lakes today. All right, so they're reservoirs. They're man-made. They're dammed. And when man goes in and clears a creek channel, as a matter of fact, I won't give it away. I'm going to take a picture of the creek channel tomorrow, the above water creek channel, okay? And I'm going to put it on Wired for Crappie on Facebook. You guys can go check it out. I may even post it on YouTube for you guys to see on the YouTube post. So you guys can see why I keep harping creek channels, creek channels, creek channels. It's going to be an eye-opener, I promise. Because when man goes in and clears a creek channel, well, I'll show you tomorrow. How's that? Everybody check it out tomorrow on Wired for Crappie on Facebook or on the YouTube page on the posts, okay? So, again, with that being said, I'm looking in those creek channels in the first third of the creek. I'm going in those creeks. Now, major creeks, and what I would call a major creek is basically one that appears to be a new lake. Those major creeks that are very, very large, I may start middle of the creek, okay? But for the most part in those creeks, I'm going to look in that first third. I'm going to hit that creek channel. I'm going to troll in that creek channel. And very first thing in the morning, I'm even going to hit those flats around the edges of that creek channel. I'm going to get up on those flats because typically fish move up on the flats to feed at night. So when they move up on the flats to feed, you can catch them coming from the flat back towards creek channel. And those are great opportunities to catch open water fish moving back and forth. That's all you're doing with trolling, guys, is you're catching those open water fish. Now, you see these guys with live scope going out there and live scoping these open water fish, okay? We didn't used to do that. We didn't used to sit out there. We couldn't do that because we couldn't sit out in open water and catch open water fish on a whim like we can now with live scope. But you can do the exact same thing trolling. You can catch those open water fish just like guys with live scope are doing, but you're going to be able to cover a heck of a lot more water than that guy with live scope is on a given day for the most part, because you're going to be able to pull, and you're pulling, if you're pulling 8 rods, you're pulling 16 jigs around. 2 jigs or 2 baits on each rod. So again, that first third of the creek, okay, creek channels and flats, just back and forth, back and forth. If you make a pass and don't catch a fish, don't turn around and come right back through the same area. Make a pass. If you don't catch one, come a different area. Follow your charts. Okay, if you don't have a chart, try to make a different pass every time until you start catching fish. As if you start catching fish, I have an Ultrex trolling motor that will follow its own trail. So if I make a pass, okay, when I first get out there, I'll turn my remote on and I'll put a route going. I'll start a route. And if I make a pass and I don't catch anything, I'll stop that route and start a new one. Okay, and I'll make a pass. Now, if I make a pass and I catch 10 fish, I'll save that route in my remote and I'll hit go back. And it'll flip my boat around, take me right back down that exact same trail that I just came up. So, you know, in today's electronic world and the electronics that we have to take advantage of, you know, there's a lot of really neat things that can help you be more successful catching fish. You don't necessarily have to have these. You probably kind of need one or the other. You rather need a good graph or you need a good trolling motor, right? So with that, you can be very successful trolling without having to spend 10 grand on electronics. You know what I'm saying? Let's see here. Kenny, when changing out jig heads often, have you thought about using fast snap? No, not. Bass Pro allows you to change jig heads without tying it on every time. So I don't, okay? Typically, no. I don't use a snap. I don't use anything of that nature. I can tie 2 jigs on. Again, Kenny, I'm running 8 rods. So if I was just running 1 rod, then I may say, yeah, I do to save time. But I'm running 8 rods. So if I pull 1 rod in and I'm retying, I still have 14 baits out there in the water. So I'll pull one in, I'll change it out, take my time, throw it back out, pull one more in. I always have at least 7 rods in the lake. So I don't, because, you know, I'm not too worried if I have 1 rod in the boat and I'm working on it. Yeah, I've still got 7 out. But you can. It just adds a little bit of weight to your setup. You got a couple snaps out there. It adds a little weight, and you know it might not affect it much, but it could affect it a foot. You know, depending on what snap you use. But no, I typically do not. And I also, like I said, I like a loop knot so that my jig is a little freer on the line. And I also like to have a little bit of a larger loop knot, about that big, maybe 2 inches on the top jig. That way my top jig can have action. I like an action tail jig, which we're going to talk about a couple that I use here in just a minute. But I want my jig to be able to have the appropriate action on the tail. And if it's too close to the main line, it will not have that action on the tail, because the line will come out of the head and actually come back and get in the way of the tail, so the tail can't move because it's hitting the line. So I like to be able to tie kind of my own loop, if you will. And I don't necessarily use a swivel for, multiple reasons. Kelly, I've got a 93 SV Garmin and a 73 DV Garmin. Why is the side view 93 interfering with the 73 when I get on down view? So why is the side view 93 interfering with the 73 when I got on down view? So let me ask you this: is one of your transducers on the back of the boat and one of your transducers on the trolling motor? Let me know, Kelly. If where are your transducers located? Jackie Jordan, tell us, what is your favorite creek on Tellico? Notchie Creek. Tellico? Ooh, that's a tough one. I got a lot of creeks I like on Tellico. For what? What are we talking about? Are we talking about trolling? Or are we talking about? I mean, I can tell you which one's my favorite for trolling. Um, no, it would not be Nachi. It's not my favorite. Um, for trolling, golly, there's so many. Um, probably. Oh man. Uh, I don't know. Baker's Creek, the right time of year, Baker's Creek is hard to beat. I do like Baker's Creek um, for trolling. During the trolling season, um, I'll tell you why. Because Baker's Creek doesn't get abused as bad. There's a ton of fish in it, and there's good fish in it, good keeper fish, and it just doesn't get slammed like a lot of the other creeks. A lot of the other creeks just get absolutely wore out. So, Rick, hello, hello. Danny Phillips, great info. Thanks. Yeah, trolling. I'd say probably Baker's Creek because it just doesn't get the pressure that a lot of the other creeks get. So, all right, let's talk. Do I not have any baits? Let's talk baits. Be right back. Let's see here. Let me grab a couple of these. Oh, snap. All right, trolling baits. Ah. What baits do I like to troll with? Right? Huh. Let's see here. Do 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 do. All right. For trolling purposes, when I'm trolling, there's a couple baits that I actually like, and I think, you know what? Okay. All right. So, couple baits I like to troll with. Action tail jigs. I always like to troll an action tail jig. This is a crappie slider. This is Charlie Brewer slider. It's a paddle tail. Okay. This is 1.5 inches. They come in different colors. This is blue and chartreuse. Okay. This is acid rain, is what they call this. Yellow, white, and chartreuse. Okay. For those of you that have seen acid rain before, you know what I'm talking about. But it's simple. It's a very simplistic jig. It's actually, like I said, just a little paddle tail. Okay. Can you guys see that little paddle tail right there? Just a little old paddle tail jig. All right. Very simplistic. Great colors. Gets a lot of wiggle. A lot of wiggle, wiggle. I want a lot of wiggle when I'm fishing. When I'm crappie fishing, when I'm pulling jigs, I want some wiggle. All right. I want it to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle and jiggle. That's what I want it to do. I want it back there wiggling and jiggling because when you're trolling, you're looking for a reaction bite. That's what you're looking for. Okay. Here's another one. All right. It's a curly tail. Everybody's seen the old curly tails, right? A curly tail grub. That's a black and chartreuse. All right. Curly tails. Um, here is a good color that I like. This is kind of a monkey milk and green. All right. And then I also like natural colors. I'm a big I'm a big fan of natural colors, black and silvers, browns, natural type stuff, clear stuff. I do like, we've got a lot of clear water here in East Tennessee, so I like natural type stuff. Okay. It's really funny, but I actually went fishing with my fishing partner last weekend, and we both have these bags that we keep all our tackle in, and I picked up his bag. So now I have his bag. So now I'm going to go through it and see what all we've got in here, because I have his bag and he doesn't know it. Look. A man after my own heart. Look at him. All right, let's see what else we got in here. If I know him, he's got some Southern Pro hot grubs in here somewhere. I'd be willing to bet you. Oh, look right here. Here's another great bait. Here's another great trolling bait. For those of you that have seen this. There's some good stuff in here. I might have to borrow some of his stuff. All right, crappie magnet, slab curly, okay? Slab curly. Great bait. Absolutely great bait. See that long tail? Man, this thing has the longest curly tail that out of any trolling bait that I've ever seen. It's just got this long curly tail. Crappie absolutely love that bait. And where a Charlie Brewer slider or just a regular curly tail has a real tight kind of windmill type wobble, this thing is like a tornado. I mean, it literally is like where you have just one curl spinning on a Southern Pro hot grub, you've got 2 or 3 curls that are spinning. It looks like a corkscrew going through the water. They are an awesome trolling bait, I'm here to tell you. Okay. Yes, the next question is going to be, can you troll a bonehead tackle stump bug? Yes. Can you troll a, Bobby Garland, if you like a Bobby Garland? Yes. Can you troll a slim stick? Okay, a bonehead slim stick? Yes. Can you catch fish on them? Yes. I just like a curly tail. Okay, that's my go-to. That's my favorite. This is actually one of my absolute go-to, no doubt, trolling baits right here. Is getting what I'm getting ready to show you guys. This is it right here. This is a slab curly from Crappie Magnet, and it is a blackened chartreuse. That is a slab curly, like I was showing you guys. It's got a tail that just wiggles, wobble wobbles. Okay, it's got a corkscrew tail. I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt. Underspins, yes, underspins. I do use underspins sometimes. I will not tie 2 underspins on the same jig or on the same line. Typically, I'll use just a regular jig head on top and an underspin on the back. All right, so the back hook, I'll use an underspin on it sometimes. But I will not use an underspin on both jig heads, okay? Just one. Just one. Ah, look what he's got. My favorite stealth bobber. Look at that. You can't beat that bobber. That's the best bobber. They quit making them, and I'm so upset about it. He got some good stuff in this bag. I might not trade him back. Nah, I got to trade him back. I got to get my stuff back. All right, so he's got some good stuff in here, though. Here's another good color. Another good color of that slab curly. That's the purple and chartreuse right there. Just something with an action tail is my go-to, okay? But yeah, underspins, like I was saying, only one. One underspin, one regular. Let's see. I bet you he's got an underspin in here somewhere. I bet you he does. I wish I had my bag. It's got a minute. No, I don't see any. So, that's my jigs. That's what I like to use. I actually have some curly tails from Mr. Curtis. There's Mr. Curtis. What do you say, Mr. Curtis? I like them too. He says, I like them too. I like Mr. Hobbs underspins too. Mr. Curtis Hobbs, if you guys don't know, is right there. Mr. light wire hooks right there. That's Mr. Curtis Hobbs. That is his hook company. Makes some of the best hooks known to crappie fishing. If you guys don't know that, Mr. Curtis actually texted me earlier, and I have not texted him back. So I'm going to text you back after this show, Mr. Curtis. But that's fine. I will get you. I'll get everything to you, Mr. Curtis, for sure. But the hey, Mr. Curtis, that's Darren's bag. Darren and I fished last weekend, and I stole his bag by mistake. That's his bag right there. We have the same little Cabela's bags that we bought years ago. We bought like 4 or 5 of them, put our tackle in. For tournament purposes, we can just grab a bag and jump in each other's boat. I went fishing with him last weekend and grabbed his bag instead of mine. So I'll have to take that back in the morning when I go to the shop. All right. Again, same type of setup for pulling planer boards, okay? Pulling planer boards, same type of setup. Normally, always 2 30-seconds or 2 16ths with the planer boards, okay? Reason being is because when you're pulling planer boards, you're typically fishing in shallower water. You don't need a whole lot of heavy weight behind your planer boards because you typically only have 5 to, well, I've had 2 feet of line behind these boards, but typically you've got 2 to 10 feet of line behind the board, and that's about it. And you don't need to be fishing deep because typically you're pulling in shallower water. What these are designed to do, for those that don't know, is they've got a 45 cut on the front of them. See that right there? So what it does is when you put your jig or you put your line on this board, it actually turns sideways and pulls your bait to the side of the boat and then keeps it on the side of the boat. So when you're in shallow water fishing and your boat is spooking those fish and those fish are parting to the side, okay, that fish parts to the side and that board comes by that fish because it's out to the side of the boat as well. So in shallow water, this is the way to catch more fish, okay, right here. And what that does, like I said, when it pulls that bait out to the side, you actually cover more water as well. Because I fish with 6 boards, okay, 3 out each side. The way that you get them, the more line you let out, the further away from the boat they get. So you can stagger these and set these up to where one's right here, one's out here, and then a third one is way out here behind you. And you can cover more water as well. I can cover 100 feet, sometimes even 125 feet of water with one pass using planer boards, okay? So I can cover more water, present my bait to more fish, and then I can catch those fish that the boat is spooking out to the sides with those planer boards, okay, in shallow water. 2 16th-ounce jigs. Again, I like something with a curly tail. I like something that's action-driven, something that has got some action to it. But that's how I pull my planer boards, okay? It's very simple. I have a lot of videos on planer boards on the channel. If you want to look at some of the planer board videos, I've always used this style planer board. This is the style planer board I've always used, but these I make here in the shop myself. This is a wired for crappie planer board, okay? Now, can you use these for other species of fish? Absolutely you can. It's not just for crappie, but these are a specific size that you can't necessarily pull real heavy baits with these, okay? These are not that big. There's my hand. You can see my hand. They're not that big, but very productive and great way to catch crappie, okay? You tie your line here and here on the board. Do everything on the same side of the board as the sticker. Starboard side is your driver's side. Port side is your passenger side. It's pretty simple. So you got starboard. They come in pairs. They're sold in pairs. You got starboard and port. Okay, come in pairs. As you can see, they've got a sticker on the inside, 45s, just like that. Very simple. Very simple. Simplistic, right? A lot of fun. And to see that planer board sit up there and start doing like this, when a fish gets on it, you're watching that planer board and it just smooth across the water like that. And then when a fish gets on it, it goes and then starts wiggling on the board on top of the lake like this right here. And it starts wiggling and popping and popping and popping. And that fish is pulling and it pops and it wiggles and it pops. it takes you back to the float going under. That's all I'm saying. Takes you back to that float going under. It's a lot of fun. Okay. Let's see. You guys have any questions? Danny, thank you very much. He says, great info. Thanks. Paul, want to go trolling on Chick. Never been on that lake. Can you tell me a good place to start? This time of year, I would troll in Harrison Bay, around the creek channel in Harrison Bay and on the flats. Harrison Bay is a good place to troll this time of year. And then I'd stay out in front of the bridge, on the main lake side of the bridge. And then as spring warms up, I'd go back on the back side of the bridge and just keep trolling. That's a great place to troll. There's some really good areas, some really good creeks up the Hiwassee to troll. But as far as on Chick, main lake, also the back of Possum Creek is a good place to troll. The back side of Sail Creek can get good as the water warms up on the other side of the bridge. Some really good, just look for those shallow areas. Look for those creek channels. Like I said, stay in them creek channels, and you got to stay in deeper water than 5 feet. Don't go in 5 feet of water yet. It ain't that time yet, but stay out there in that 15 to 18 foot of water on the creek channel, and you should do fine, Paul. Do you run the Charlie Brewer slider? Yes. On a slider jig head or regular head? Oh, sorry. A regular jig head. I run them on a regular. I don't run them on the slider jig head. I run them just on a regular jig head. Donathan just ordered from Mr. Curtis and was a great experience. The best experience. Okay. Ordering from Mr. Curtis is like, calling your grandfather and saying, hey, Pop, I need some jigs. And I shouldn't say grandfather. He ain't that old. Calling your dad and saying, hey, I need some jigs. And he says, son, I got you. That's just how it works. Mr. Curtis, I'm not calling you old, buddy. But it's like calling your family member and saying, I need some jigs, and them saying, I got you. I mean, that's just how it is. Mr. Curtis is the best. I like Mr. Curtis because I can call him and I can say, hey, Mr. Curtis, you got some number 2 hooks? And he says, yeah, I got some. I say, got eagle claws? And he said, yeah, I got some eagle claws, Matt. And I say, okay, you got some 16th ounce on there? And he said, I can pour them. I said, all right, give me some 16ths with a number 2, or give me some 16ths with a number 4, or, Gay, you got a number 4 sickle down there? Yeah, I got them. Throw them on there, baby. He said, I got you. You want red, gold, or bronze? And I said, I want the bronze ones. And he said, I got you. I mean, Mr. Curtis is just the best. I mean, it's just to have somebody, and I'm not trying to pump up Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis don't get that big head going on. But and guys, I've been ordering from Mr. Curtis for over a decade. Okay, I've been ordering jigs from Mr. Curtis since I started crappie fishing. My partner at the time was using Mr. Curtis, and I just jumped right on that bandwagon and been buying from Mr. Curtis ever since. I appreciate the relationship and the friendship at this point, Mr. Curtis, because Mr. Curtis and I don't have a working friendship anymore. We have a friend or a working relationship. We have a friendship. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that. But yes, Mr. Curtis is the best, and I appreciate him for everything he does. And as we all do, we get older, and Mr. Curtis, I hate the day that you ever say that you're not going to make any more jigs, because I'm going to be up Poop Creek. You got to promise me, if that day ever comes, Mr. Curtis, you call Matt first and you say, how many do you want? Because I'm going to get, I think I ordered like 2,100 from him the other day, jig heads, but I'm going to get like 21,000 from you when if the day ever comes you say you're not making jigs no more. I'm gonna stock up so my kids can have your jigs. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a blessing to know you, Mr. Curtis, and to be able to order from such a great person. And Donathan says the same thing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm just elaborating on what Donathan said, but yeah, great experience all the way around. Great guy for sure. Salt of the earth people, you know what I mean? Ron, enjoyed several of your videos over the past few months. The first time watching live from Corbin, Kentucky. What's going on, Ron? Appreciate you watching live, buddy. Hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to answer any questions that you may have. And I appreciate you for watching the videos over the last few months. Oh, here we go. When do you choose crankbaits over plastics? When it gets hot. That's the only time I do. When it gets hot, I go to crankbaits. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if it's summer, when the water temperatures get above 75. When the water temperature gets above 75, I go to crankbaits simply for the reaction bite. Also, all I'm looking for is the reaction strike. Crankbaits, they're not hitting a crankbait because they're hungry. They're hitting it because it's down there wobbling in their face, making noise, and they just can't stand it. They got to hit it. So it's a reaction bite. It's purely reaction bite. And that's when I go to it, is when it's hot and you're looking for that reaction strike. I've never used a planer board, bought some last year, but haven't used them. Not sure how to really. David, go to my YouTube videos and type in planer board. Type in wired for crappie planer board on the search, and you will find plenty of planer board how-tos on there. Okay, you can watch those videos that I've done with planer boards, and I kind of show how I rig them up, how I set them up, how I put them out, all that good jazz. Okay. All right. What type of jig do you like for live scope fishing? Well, that's simple. That's a good question. I prefer, what I found myself using most of the time is a bonehead tackle stump bug. Okay, bonehead tackle stump bug right there. Bam. Why do I like a bonehead tackle stump bug? Well, because I love their colors and I love their plastic. Okay, their compound in their plastic, okay, is like no other compound on the market. None. Not one. I hadn't found a jig yet. I've used mom and pops. I've used chains. I've used everybody that I know. Okay. That compound is firm but sensitive. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. You can take a jig head. You can run a hook down through this bonehead tackle stump bug, and you can tell right away when you put a hook in the end of it that it's just different. The plastic on this, you catch 50 fish on one jig over and over and over again, and it not tear up. Okay, you can use this jig. Now listen to me. You can use this jig all day long. I had a guide trip this last weekend, which I need to post about. I had a guide trip this last week. The gentleman that I was fishing with, literally, we caught 60 fish. They caught 60 fish, okay, and never changed jigs or jig heads or line or rods or anything. I handed them rods at the beginning of the day and said, here you go. This is what we're using. And never changed a bait. Okay. 60 fish boated, never changed a bait. I'm just saying. When you buy a pack of stump bugs or slim sticks or mini slim sticks or minnows or whatever you buy from Bonehead Tackle, you can assure that you're going to catch multiple fish on every single jig without it tearing up. Now, if you use a jig head with a big collar on it, that might not be the case because the collar is going to tear your jig. A lot of people don't realize you're burning money by using a jig head with a big old collar on it, okay, or keeper. A lot of times I'll take a pair of pliers and pinch half the keeper off, or a pair of scissors and cut half the keeper off, because you don't really need it crappie fishing, okay? And it just tears your jig up. So that's a little trick I can tell you guys about, is you take a jig head, that little keeper that's on the jig head, cut that sucker off. You don't need it. It's not. Sometimes I wonder why we even put them on there. I don't know. Maybe that's a question for Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis, why do they put keepers on jig heads for crappie fishing? I mean, I understand it for some types of fishing, but for crappie fishing, you can take a jig head, and I buy a lot of jig heads from Mr. Curtis that don't have a keeper on them, no collar. I don't know. And then a lot of them I cut off, or I cut in half. Sometimes I do like to have something on there that kind of holds it, but it's not moving anywhere. We're not casting or working that jig fast enough. Most of the time that collar is to keep it on there when you're jigging it or ripping it through, through brush or lily pads or whatever when you're bass fishing. But for crappie fishing, don't really need to keep it. So anyway, that's what I like to use. Bonehead Tackle, I love their baits just because of the durability purpose of them. I mean, it's outstanding. As a matter of fact, I got the jigs we used right here. Look, this is one of the rods we used right here. Well, it's all tangled up with the other one, but look right here. Hang on, let me get it untangled. All right. I want you guys to look at this hook. That is a Mr. Curtis 1/4 ounce hook. I want you to look. Oh, man, come on, focus. Look at the teeth marks in that stump bug. This stump bug right here caught probably 30 to 40 fish minimum. Look at that. Okay? Can you guys see how chewed up that jig is? You can see a little bit of the keeper right there, but can you see the teeth marks in that stump bug? Come here. All right, come on, focus. Focus. Look at that. Okay? We got jig head. That's the same jig head that they used all day in the same jig. All right? So there you go. Proof's in the pudding. Or in the scarred up stump bug. Do you ever fish Truman Lake? No, I have not fished Truman Lake. I would love to fish Truman Lake, David, but I have not, unfortunately. What spreads do you recommend to stay 10 to 15 feet depth with 1/16? What speeds? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it said spreads. Woo, boy. My eyes. Need to get them checked. What speeds do you recommend? 16th ounce, 10 to 15 feet. 10 to 15 feet with a 16th ounce jig, you need to be going like 0.6 to get 10 to 15 feet. 2/16, you can get that 10 to 15 feet going 0.8. Okay. But with 1/16, 10 to 15 feet, you need to be going slow. You need to be going like 0.6 to 0.8 at the absolute fastest. Thanks. I appreciate it. You're welcome. What's a good fillet knife for crappie? Fillet knife for crappie, I mean, man, that's a good question. Rapala, I mean, there's a million different fillet knives out there. I don't necessarily have one that I recommend. I have a bunch of different ones. I used to use an electric a lot, the Fisherman electric, but I've gotten away from electric. It's fast, but I have gotten away from it over the years just because it's a lot easier cleaning a regular knife than an electric knife. I really just use a cheap old Rapala with a wooden handle. I mean, good carbon steel blade, something you can sharpen. I like to sharpen it before every group of fish, or every time, before I go out there to clean fish, I sharpen the knife and clean my fish and put it up, sharpen it again next time before I go out there. So something with a good carbon steel blade, a Rapala fillet knife. I like I think it's a 6-inch, maybe it's an 8-inch. I'm not real sure, to be honest with you. I'm not too picky about fillet knives as long as it gets the job done. It's got a good blade on it. Now, if it's got a blade that I can't sharpen, it's garbage. But I want something that's got a good carbon steel blade I can put a good edge on. And the next question is going to be, what kind of sharpener do I use? I use just a cheap knife sharpener from Walmart is what I use. One of the ones out of the hunting and fishing section. It's white with a little blue knuckle. It's got a little plastic thing that comes down, covers your knuckles, and you just put it on your blade, hold your blade down, go, and just sharpen it up. I'm not real picky about knives. I mean, as long as they get the job done and get the fish filleted, not a big knife guy as far as fillet knives go. But again, just a Rapala with the old wooden handle is what works best for me. I think they're like $12 to $14. They're not very expensive, but you don't really have to have a very expensive knife to clean crappie. If I was cleaning larger fish, if I was deep sea fishing and catching grouper and snapper and catching something with some serious bone structure to it, and I'd probably have a little bit different opinion on it. But for crappie, again, simplicity is best, man. Oh, there's Don. What's up, Don? I was talking about you earlier. Did you know I was talking about you earlier? Hey, Don, you remember that January 1 on Chickamauga, we were long line trolling and we absolutely wore the fish out. We were talking about that earlier. You know what I'm saying? Do you remember that day? We were there for like, I literally, Don looks down and he's like, hey, we got to count these fish in this live well because I think we got too many. He's like, we got to stop. We got to stop and catch and talk. We got to, I don't want to get in trouble. We got to make sure we don't not over our limit. You remember that day? Absolutely flat wore them out. Yes, I do. Right there. See, I tell y'all the truth on here. I'm telling you, I don't lie. We absolutely wore the fish out. That was on Chick too. We found a group of fish that were sitting in a creek channel in a little bend, a little creek channel bend, and every time we went through there, we were catching like 4 at a time. That is no exaggeration. Like Don would have 2 on, I would have 2 on. That's back when I had my old bass tracker. We were fishing 4 rods out of the back of the boat, 4 rods out of the front of the boat. He was sitting in the back, I was sitting in the front. And we just sit there. We're reeling them in both 2 at a time, throwing them in the live well. I mean, just every pass, we were catching 4 fish, 4 fish, 4 fish. I swear to have so much fun. I absolutely love it. I'm ready to go back to trolling. I'm telling you. I'm ready to get the trolling rods put in the boat, get the rod holders on the boat. As far as spider rigging is concerned, bleh, I can't stand spider rigging. Oh my God, I can't stand it. Sitting up there on the front of the boat is not a bad thing. Now, hey, that time we fished Douglas, spider rigging up at Douglas, we absolutely, I don't know how many fish we caught that day. My stupid self broke the boat. It was a tournament. I broke the boat. We were fishing a tournament on Douglas. It was 6 degrees that morning, coldest I've ever put in my boat in the lake. The shift cable was froze up on the motor. I kicked the shift lever, broke the shifter. We couldn't fish where we wanted to because I was too young and dumb to know that I could take the cowling off the motor and shift it into gear. So we were just like, well, the motor's broke, whatever, bye. So we put the trolling motor down, literally fished from where we put in the lake, like 100 yards out. And before I could even get all the spider rig rods down, I'm sitting there yanking fish out. And I'm like, hey, Don, get up here in the front of the boat because I'm catching fish. He's like, I'm handing you rods. I said, I don't care. We're catching fish, I think we caught over 100 fish that day spider rigging. It was the best day I've ever had spider rigging, and that was probably the one of the last times I had fun spider rigging because spider rigging is just so slow. It's just a mess. It's slow. It's you get a fish on, and you set the hook, and it runs around all your other rods, and then you're trying to fix them. It's like God, you just want to blow your brains out. But one of the funnest times. That I ever had on the lake. I mean, a broken boat, we caught 100 fish. It was so much fun. The good old Rapala sold everywhere in North America. Yep, everywhere, no doubt. What's up, Matt? Hope you had a good holiday. Steve in Munford, Tennessee. What's going on, Steve? Yeah, it can be a mess. There ain't no doubt about that. It can be an absolute disaster of a mess. No, for sure. Danny Phillips. He says, would love to fish with you on Dale with boards. Well, Danny, I'm going to be down there at some point come this spring. So if you want to get together and fish, holler at me. You can holler at me on Facebook or at Wired for Crappie on Facebook, and we'll see if we can't make it happen, Captain. But yeah, like I said, some of the funnest times that I've ever had crappie fishing have been trolling, and can't wait to get back to it. Can't wait to get the trolling rods back in the boat and go just fun fish. I mean, that's what it is for me. It's just so much fun. It's fun fishing. There's not a whole lot of I don't have to sit there and stare at a screen. I don't have to have a sore neck when I get done fishing. And I can just sit, literally, I sit in this seat most of the time right here at my driver's seat, and I kick my feet up right here on the side of the boat, like this right here. I just kick my feet up right here on the side of the boat. I'll just sit right here like this, and I'll just watch my rods. Now, most of the time I'm reeling fish in, but if I'm not reeling fish in, I'm sitting right here chilling, and I'm drinking me a Coke. I'm eating me. I can eat. I can sit down. I can eat. I can play. I can do whatever. I can dig through my boxes. It's just fun. I mean, I don't have to sit there and stare at a screen and make a cast. Stare at a screen and make a cast. Stare at a screen and make a cast. Now, I like doing that too. Don't get me wrong. but I am ready. Let's go. It's trolling season, baby. It's getting ready to get good. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna do some fun fishing, some trolling, some back to the roots. We're gonna call it. We may just do a whole series on it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we may just do like long line trolling, do 2 or 3 shows, show you guys some of the tips and the tricks of long line trolling, and then we may do planer boards and some of the tips and tricks there. Do 2 or 3 shows on that, and just kind of make a little series out of it called the trolling series. You know what I mean? Um, let's see. Anthony says, "Can you suggest a source for wiring components? Wiring what type of components? You talking about electronics? That would be me. Wired Marine Electronics. If you're looking for somebody to wire your electronics, Anthony, again, Facebook, Wired Marine Electronics. I have an electronics install company, and I install electronics on boats. Right over, right there is actually my logo, Wired Marine Electronics, right there, that little sticker on the board up there. Hit me up on Facebook, message me, Wired Marine Electronics on Facebook, buddy. Do you have any luck with marabou jigs? And if so, how do you fish them? Absolutely. I love marabou. Marabou breathes underwater. So, and what I mean by breathes is it's got a puff kind of action to it, where underwater that marabou will actually breathe. It's really neat if you see a marabou jig underwater with the fluctuations in the water. It actually kind of breathes. It looks like it's breathing. It's really neat. So if you like marabou jigs, put one in the fish tank sometime. Just sit there and watch it, and it's really cool. But yes, marabou is. I mean, I love marabou for sure. Um, One of my go tos is a hair jig, and it always has been. Float and fly. I love to pull hair jigs. Like I said, my uncle swore by him. He used to pull hair jigs with the minnow, and for the longest time, that's all I pulled. I pulled 2 hair jigs. I would tip the second one of the back one with the minnow. Don knows what I'm talking about. What's up, Don? Uh, you know, I'm telling you, we would pull hair jigs every time we went fishing. Um, yep, yep. He just messaged me and told me where that was on New Year's Day. I'm going to tell you guys. I'm going to make you go look for it. It was on Chickamauga in the upper end. I'll tell you that much. But I can't give that New Year's Day spot away. It was a good one up in the upper end of Chick. But no, the what was I saying? Oh yeah, jigs, hair jigs. That's what we pulled for the longest time. Even back a dozen years ago, probably almost maybe 15 years ago. It's been so long ago. I had a 12-foot John boat where I started fishing out of for crappie, and Don would fish with me in that 12-foot John boat. We put 2 guys in a 12-foot John boat and go long line troll, and we pulled 2 hair jigs, the back hair jig tipped with a minnow, and we would absolutely wear fish out. I mean, we would go catch limits of fish on a 12-foot John boat. That's all you need. I mean, you don't have to have all kinds of crazy stuff. If you've got a lake map and a boat, you can go catch fish. You can go troll and catch crappie. And as a matter of fact, it had a rear-mounted trolling motor, a little handheld rear-mounted trolling motor that we would troll around with. Have you ever tried to troll with a rear-mounted trolling motor? It is absolutely a nightmare because you can't ever keep the front of the boat straight. It's a nightmare, especially with current wind. It's just, I mean, how we ever did that kind of stuff, man, I don't know, but we did it and we caught fish. It was a lot of fun. I think that's why I like getting back to trolling and getting back to the roots of my crappie fishing, how I started. You know what I'm saying? Because it reminds me of all those great times. Reminds me of all the times I had out with friends and family, and that's what fishing's all about, guys. It's not about going out there and catching the biggest fish to put on Facebook. It's about going out there and having fun and just enjoying your time on the water. And it seems like with today's society and everything we've got going, I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth here in a minute, but everybody's got to put the biggest fish on Facebook. They got to have the biggest fish. You know what I'm saying? It's not about going out and having the biggest fish. It's not about going out and catching the most fish. It's about just going out and having fun with friends and family and enjoying your time on the water and catching fish. And if you catch, I'm telling you right now, if I take home a full limit of 10.5-inch fish, I'm the happiest man in the world because I love a 10.5-inch fish to eat. That's my favorite fish is a 10.5-inch fish. And I say 10.5 because 10 is legal in Tennessee. And I don't want to be 10 because a lot of times they'll shrink in the cooler or the live well. And I don't want Mr. Green Jeans coming up to me and busting me for, having a fish under 10 inches. So 10.5 is my best fish to keep. 10.5-inch fish. They fry up crispy, and that's just what I love to catch. This is where I like to be. That's where I love to stay. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Eric, how do you decide to troll and when to stop and pick structures? Very good question. So when and how do you decide to troll? So it's very simple. Okay, I'm looking for bait when I'm trolling. I'm looking for fish when I'm trolling. A lot of times now, without electronics, I'm hitting the creek channels. I'm going to hit the creek channels. I'm going to troll the creek channels. I'm going to start at the outside of the creek. I'm going to work my way in, and I'm just trying to locate fish with my jigs because I don't have electronics, right? If I don't have electronics, I'm trying to find those creek channels, that general area of the creek channel. You can look at a lake map, okay? You can buy a lake map of your local lake, and you can pretty much identify where your creek channels are at close, okay? And you can just kind of zigzag back and forth across those creek channels and try to locate those fish that are sticking close to the creek channel. Work your way from the outside of the creek to the inside of the creek. If it's not spawn, if it's a spawn, go shallow, work your way out. If it's any other time of the year, start to the outside and work your way in. But that's how I would do it without electronics. With electronics, okay, I'm looking for bait. I'm looking for fish. If I see bait, I'm going to start really seriously thinking about looking to troll that area. If I see fish, I'm definitely trolling that area. If I see just suspended fish, I'm looking for groups of fish. I'm not necessarily looking for individual fish. If I have electronics and I'm looking for fish to troll, I'm looking for those pods of fish. I'm looking for 3 fish here, 6 fish there, 4 fish there, 2 fish there, 1 fish there, 6 fish there, 3 fish there, 2 fish there. I'm looking for those groups of fish. I'm not necessarily looking for one here, one here, one here, one here, one over there. I'm looking for groups, pods, wads of fish. Okay. Once I find that, I'm stopping. I'm trolling. All right. When do I decide to fish structures? Once the sun gets up high and those fish do stop biting, a lot of times they go to structure. Okay. So if you're catching open water fish, those fish are moving around and you're catching those fish trolling, and then all of a sudden they shut off. You move over, you don't necessarily catch any. You move over, you don't catch any. Go deeper, you don't catch many. A lot of times you can stop, go to structure, and you'll find them on structure. Because when that sun gets high, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, and that sun gets up in the sky and it's coming straight down in the lake, and the light's penetrating deeper, a lot of times those fish will go to structure to find that shade. They'll get on the shady side of structure to ambush bait, and you can catch them off structure. Or they'll go to structure just to rest. They'll go down there to rest. You can find them there. That's how I kind of dictate whether I'm going to troll or go to structure. Going to Collinsville, Illinois to fishing show this weekend, and was wondering if you want me to pick you up some of that 3-pound sniping braid. Did you watch my sniping braid video, Andy? I appreciate you, buddy. You're the man. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what this is all about. You see what I'm saying? Having fun with friends. You know what I'm talking about? And in case you're wondering what Andy's talking about there, you can go to my video about braided line and are all braids the same, and you can watch that video. We did a test on braids, and I hate to say the sniping braid failed miserably, but it did. Again, I won't beat up products. I mean, somebody's product is somebody's product. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth their video or their products. But if you guys are going to go spend your hard-earned money on a product, it should at least do what it says it's going to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and if I find a product that doesn't do what it says it's going to do, is it a bad product? Not necessarily, but it doesn't perform the way it says it's supposed to perform. So if you're going to sell a product based on certain parameters, and people are buying it because they believe that it's better, but it's not, then somebody needs to point that out so you guys don't spend your money on something that you think is going to be better but isn't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's all. I'm not going to harp on it. I'm not going to get back on that subject. If you want to watch the video, yeah, he said, yes, I did. Say, and he watched the video. But if you want to watch the video, go out there and watch it. It's a great video. It's actually eye-opening to me. And we tested a whole bunch of different braids, and several of them didn't make the cut. I mean, several of them didn't. Several of them failed to the specifications that they were labeled onto the package. So, you know, hey, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if they fail, they fail. Anthony, lots of laughs. You hurt some other YouTubers' feelings with that sniping braid video. Well, I hate to tell them, but that is what it is. I mean, I hate that I hurt anybody's feelings. In today's society, we typically get our feelings hurt fairly easily. But that's okay. I don't mind that I hurt their feelings. But I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. I was not the that was not the only call that I received about that video. As a matter of fact, I received a call from the producer of that specific line and was told that they were going to do some testing of their own, and that if they found it defective, they would absolutely make it right. That it could have been a bad lot. And I said, well, it wasn't a bad lot because we tested about 5 different spools and they weren't from the same lot. They weren't even bought in the same time frames. So, you know, and they were bought from multiple places. One was bought from a different state. Okay. But yeah, so nonetheless, that video did ruffle some feathers. But I think sometimes feathers need to be ruffled because that's how products get better. That was a very new product at the time, and that was some feedback that they weren't receiving, and they actually thanked me for the feedback because after they got done being mad about it, they actually thanked me for the feedback because, you know, unfortunately, when companies have pro staffers that are only there to get free stuff, they don't necessarily tell the truth about maybe what it is they're seeing and experiencing. So for them, it was eye-opening. They thanked me, and they moved on, and I moved on. But yes, it ruffled some feathers, and I'm not sorry that it ruffled feathers. Okay, I'm sorry. I I'm not going to tell you a product's great if it's not, and I'm not going to tell you that it's crap if it's great. So, you know, when you come here to Wired for Crappie, you're going to get an honest opinion, and I'm not going to badmouth it. I haven't used it since then. I won't use it, but hopefully they've figured it out and fixed it. And if they did, great. And if they didn't, shame on them. Not for me to decide. But I will say this: after that video, I got told by several people that I didn't know what I was doing. I got told by several people that I didn't um, uh, do the testing right. I got told by several people different things. So, the IGFA. Has anybody ever heard of IGFA, the International Game and Fish Association? They actually have about a $20,000 machine for line testing that they use to certify the world record catches. And I contacted them and I sent them the spool of braided line that I had, and I sent it to them and asked them to test it. It cost me money. I paid for it. Okay. Now, I did not release this on video because I didn't feel that at that point I needed to, but I sent it to the IGFA, and they actually videoed the testing for me because I told them I was a YouTuber doing some line testing and I wanted lines tested. I sent them 3 different lines, 3 of the lines that I used in the video, and they had the exact same results on a $20,000 machine that I had on the machine here in my shop. So they had the same results on the machine that they use to certify world record catches, okay, for the International Game and Fish Association world record book, if you will, the fishing world record book, because they have to certify how if somebody says, hey, I got the light line marlin catch and I used 12-pound test, they have to certify that that line was 12-pound test. So for those of you that are trying to fish for a world record on light line, you better make sure your line tests out right, because if you're using let's say you're using a 6-pound Mr. Crappie fluorocarbon, that crap breaks at like 20 pounds. I mean, it is strong. It ain't 6, it's stronger than that. And if they put that on their line tester and pop it on their line tester and it pops higher than 6 pounds, you don't get certified a world record. Okay, so keep that in mind. And they had the same testing that I did. So, but again, Andy, I actually did not release that at that point. I'd already talked to multiple people, and I didn't want to release that information. I mean, the proof was in our pudding. It basically told me that our testing was correct, and that's what I wanted to make sure, because as a I don't want to call myself an influencer, but I guess I kind of am. As an influencer, I didn't want to put anything out there personally that wasn't correct. So I thought, well, maybe I didn't do it right. And I started searching for somebody that could do it right, and came across IGFA, because I went to Google and put in, fishing line break tests and testing and this, that, and the other. And I actually found IGFA that would test it for me at a cost. Of course, it cost me money. I had to pay them, but they did it. And they actually sent me the videos. I still have the videos that they sent me on my email, from them testing the lines and where they broke at and what they were supposed to break at. So, yeah, it was eye-opening stuff. It really was. It was a lot of fun. And, like I said, if it hurt anybody's feelings, I apologize. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Is that okay? Can we be real? Can we be real on here? Is that all right? um, Dwight at Andy. Ha 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 ha. Lund, how do we schedule a guide trip with you? Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Now that I'm off my soapbox, scheduling a guide trip is easy. Go to wiredforcrappie.com, go to my guide service tab, and my calendar is on there where you can see my open dates or my available dates. You can schedule, book, pay, everything right there online. So it's very easy to schedule a guide trip with me, guys. My Bluetooth just died. All you have to do is go to wiredforcrappie.com. Is the Expo kid friendly? Never been. Oh, absolutely, Eric. 110%. And as a matter of fact, Eric, the Expo is so kid friendly that if you take your kid and walk around the Expo with them, most every kid leaves there with a bag full of stuff. Because almost every booth you take your kid in, they're going to give them candies, baits, hats, towels. I mean, kids rack up at the Fishing Expo. If your kids love to fish or like to fish or think they like to fish or ever want any fishing lures, take them to the East Tennessee Fishing Show, and they will rack up on bass baits, crappie baits, walleye baits, on hats, on all kinds of stuff. Absolutely the most kid-friendly environment. Yes, without a doubt. And a lot of the booths even have little games set up for the kids. I mean, it is very kid-friendly. Plus, there's multiple boat, multiple marine dealers there selling boats. My son loves to go just to look at all the different boats and get in them and open the compartments and sit down at the console and tell me which one he's going to buy when he gets older and all this other stuff. So, yes, very kid-friendly. Anthony, be real. Don't apologize. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Andy, you going to the East Tennessee Fishing Show? Yes. I talked about that earlier. I will be there Saturday morning for sure and Sunday morning for sure. Saturday afternoon is still up in the air. I don't know that I'll be there Saturday afternoon. I have a guide trip Saturday afternoon. I might be able to move to Sunday afternoon if I can. I will do that Sunday afternoon, and I will be there all day Saturday and Sunday morning until about lunch. But then I will have to go to my guide trip. So the gentleman booked the guide trip back months ago, and we'll see. I don't know. I'll see if I can get it moved. If I can, I can. If I can, I can't. That's just how it is.
business first, right? Duty first. Got to take somebody fishing. I mean, you can't go to the fishing show if you got to go fishing. You know what I mean? But yes, definitely be there Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Eric, haha. Well, I guess we'll see you Saturday. Sounds like a plan to me, buddy. All right, we are to the end of the night. It looks like down to the end of the comments. I appreciate you guys as always for watching. Any questions for anybody that watches this live after it's live, because it posts to YouTube and you can watch it on YouTube after the live happens, right? That's a beautiful thing about YouTube. So you can go back and watch stuff. So if you're watching this and you made it to the end and you have comments or questions, leave them in the comment section. I always go back and answer y'all's comments. I try to. I might not get to it that day that you comment, but sometime in the next day or two, I'll get back to your comment and I'll answer your questions. So if anybody has questions, comments, or concerns, anything, or you just want to talk about the sniping braid some more, leave me a comment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll get back with you. I try to get back with everybody. I appreciate everything that you guys do as subscribers and as followers. I couldn't do it without you guys. I appreciate it, every bit of it. I hope you guys have a great night, great week. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. And as always, God bless. We'll catch you on the next one, guys.